It has been 1 year ago since this date that I have moved into the van, and the point of my journey has not been to arrive anywhere. Well, you know, at least nowhere specific. I did, of course, want to travel around. I wanted to see the countryside. I wanted to experience life as could be done from a van. So what have I learned? What have I done different? What in the world could I take home as a good take-home message? Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about that. What are the things that I would do differently? What are the things I did not expect? What are the things that I didn't anticipate? That is a good question. And I have a list of questions here. Different questions people have asked me about my first full year on the road. So we're going to go ahead and address some of those questions, and then I'm going to give you a few highlights if you're new to the channel. And if you're wondering why I'm wearing a dirty orange hat, well, right now I'm actually at a camp working in the kitchen, and this is the hat that I care about the least. So let's go ahead and ask a few simple questions first. Number one is, what happened that I did not expect? Well, I don't want to get political. I did not expect the gas prices to double since I've been on the road, but that's in many places what has actually happened. So the less we say about that right now, the better. Didn't expect it, but they're starting to fall a little bit. So yeah, it's not a huge deal, but yes, it is a bigger expense than I have planned on. What would I have done differently? I have a hard time thinking about this one. Maybe one aspect is I haven't stopped quite as much at places that I see along the side of the road that look very fascinating. I haven't stopped and slowed down in some places where I probably should have. And that might be a goal for the next year. Let's do a little bit more spontaneous stuff. Of course, I did one spontaneous stop. The biggest spontaneous stop I recall was the Trail Through Time. Saw an exit for it, looked fascinating. I pulled off, I stopped, and it was a whole video in that, and I enjoyed it immensely. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. So that's one thing that I will probably do differently on my next trip, is plan less things as closely and as tightly as I did, and just kind of have rough, vague ideas of places where I can go and things that I can do. And in that case there, I would have more freedom and feel more flexible to stop at roadside curiosities as you see them. Another factor, of course, is kitties. I love my kitties, but I do actually wish I didn't have them with me on this van life travel. But nevertheless, this is a situation we're in. These are my kitties, and I'm just going to keep them until they decide to leave the world. Well, we're going to get back and talk about a few other ones a little bit later. All right, so another question is, what was easier than I thought it might be? Well, that's an interesting one. The first thing that comes to mind is water. That's one of the things I really had the biggest concern about traveling around the country in the van is, am I going to be able to find enough water floating around in the places where I needed to be? And I was actually a little concerned about that initially. But the reality is, finding water is actually quite easy when you're on the road. There was only one place I had to buy it, and that was in Quartzsite, Arizona. And really, the reason you had to buy it down there is because it's such an RV touristy town. It's just, that's what you do, is you just have to buy it. But everywhere else, I found water in national parks, in public places. Sometimes just city parks will have it because of dog parks. Look for dog parks, in fact. If you hunt around on your mapping software, look for dog parks, you'll absolutely find plenty of places to get water. So there's that. And then, of course, the last big question is, would you do it all again? Absolutely. And that's why I'm going to keep doing van life. Not forever, but I'm going to keep doing van life for a few years. I'm shooting, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years, maybe just as long as the van tarries. I don't know. I have not decided exactly how long, but we're just getting ready to go for the second big loop. And with the second big loop out of the way, I'm going to be really curious to see what else I can do from here. So with that being said, let's go ahead and have a look at the highlights of my first year in van life. I would say the first highlight was actually the Klondike Bluffs campground north of Moab. What was so significant for me is this was one of those breakthroughs. You see, I had lived in the van for several months at this point in time. And in that time, August, September, and most of October, I stayed in one place in State College. I drove across country. I stayed in a friend's driveway for a while. And then I went down to Dinosaur. I bought a campground for a night. I traveled around. I stayed in some rest stop areas, some parking lots, and things like that. But it really wasn't until I got down north of Moab where I stopped. And this was really that very first time I'm staying for a long period of time on BLM land. I stayed in that campground almost 2 whole weeks. In fact, I think it was the whole 2 weeks I could stay on BLM land, where I stopped, I set up camp, and I just didn't go anywhere. I mean, I took some trips down to the nearby national parks, but I kept going back to that one campground that was home for this period of time. The very first campground I ever stayed at, long period of time, as a van dweller, as a free BLM land campground. It was kind of that place where you pull in and you're not quite sure if you're doing everything right, but you're just kind of doing what other people are doing, and you don't really know. That first learning experience. And that was my experience here in Klondike Bluffs, north of Moab, Utah. Secondly, I would have to say my trip to Bryce Canyon. This one was one of the somewhat spontaneous ones. I originally was not planning on going this far north. It was starting to get cold. It was a frosty morning. It was a time that I was worried about ice being on the roads. But it also looked like the best option considering everything out before me. I didn't quite have the time to research what Bryce Canyon might be, other than just, how do I get there? I know it exists. I think that Utah is among the most beautiful states. Many people who've traveled extensively as well will point to Montana. I've been there, maybe I haven't been there enough. But what I love about Utah is the white and the red sandstones, the red colorations, and Bryce Canyon gave us all of those combinations, all of the most beautiful things that you expect to find. Red sandstones, canyons, walks, overlooks, just amazing, beautiful places. And I didn't really know what I was in for, but Bryce Canyon quickly became one of my favorite national parks, and one that I very much look forward to going to in the future when I can take a party of people there and we can do that canyon rim trail, which just puts you right immersed in all of the columns inside of the canyon itself. I would say that this definitely became one of my favorite national parks. Now on to the next place that most people say, you should go here. That is Slab City. A strange and eclectic place. A place where people go to be lost or forgotten, or maybe both. It's a place some people look at as being a amazing utopia, and others say this is the very, very dangerous place. The air reeks of burnt tires because people burn tires at night to keep warm in the wintertime. There's serious drug problems. The police jump back and forth there a lot. Criminals go to hide. Of course, this is Slab City. A very interesting place. Salvation Mountain. East Jesus, and all sorts of other weird stuff in between. Slab City is indeed a dangerous place. It was very fun being here, but it's not somewhere I'd recommend spending a ton of time. Still, I enjoyed my time. I was happy to have gone there. I was very happy to get out there and just see that something like this does exist in our world and even in our country. But still, it's not quite worth the utopia some pin it as. But definitely my trip to Slab City was one of the most impactful places I've been this year. One thing I've always wanted to see is the cool giant cacti from Coyote and Roadrunner. And my chance to get down to the deserts in Arizona showed me these. I mean, I've been to Grand Canyon, which is Arizona. I even went down to Yuma once, where I saw one of them at an airport. It was like, cool, it's at an airport. Didn't actually see any other ones down there. Not sure why. But there's two places I was at, and I was deciding which one do I want to go with. Do I want to go to Saguaro National Park or Oregon Pipe Cactus? I decided to use the footage from Oregon Pipe Cactus because the 20-mile loop through the Oregon cactuses is just absolutely amazing. Of course, it's called Oregon Pipe because what it looks like, but they are saguaro cactuses. They generally only grow in that specific tight region down by the Phoenix area down there in Arizona. In this case, I was down by the Mexican border, and this place is just fabulous. I loved the drive, seeing the cacti. There was a couple of excellent hikes in here. Overall, I really did enjoy this. This was one of my highlights of the year because it knocked off that item off the list to see those giant cactuses. Next, we come to what has become my favorite national park. Very small and new to being a national park, but this is White Sands in the deserts down in New Mexico. A small acreage of land gets overcome with, I think it's gypsum, which is bright, shiny white. It looks like I'm driving on snow, but I'm not. This is sand. And the most amazing thing about this little park, you can get up there, you can actually sled ride down these dunes. And if you stay until sunset, you will see the most beautiful colors of purple you have ever seen in your life. I didn't even know this was a thing. You see, oftentimes I just look at the maps where I'm going and I look at what's around and I see a little national park and I gotta swing in there because I'm trying to hit as many national parks that I possibly can. So I see this little white sands on the way up to Roswell, New Mexico, a spot I wanted to go up there and visit. And I see a little national park right in the middle. I'm like, can I get there? And I got there and I was actually concerned, am I going to get there too late? Well, it turns out I got there at the perfect time. I got there in the late afternoon, sunset was starting, and then I get out there to this hike, and I didn't have a chance to do all of it. I knew that, but I was going to go out there, and what I started to see is people just hang out on individual dunes. Well, they were all waiting for the sunset, because they knew this is the most amazing place on earth to watch a sunset. The ocean has nothing on this place. Visit White Sands if you can. Of course, being me, it's a foregone conclusion we're going to go and visit the Alien Museum in Roswell, New Mexico. So I didn't get a ton of time to get up there, but I was also really expecting some alien cafe, some small-time diner where you could get in there and actually order a burger under a alien spaceship or something. But alas, no such thing is actually in Roswell. There's a bunch of corporate chains that have decked things up with aliens. I mean, the McDonald's Playhouse looks like a UFO, and aliens are holding up several signs around town, and they definitely got the alien-themed lampposts all throughout town. But other than that, it was a fairly interesting town, just a fairly normal town, just with some UFO decor. But it was absolutely worth going to. It was worth seeing the UFO museum. And it was a curiosity that I did want to see, and I'm glad that I went to enjoy. I heard a while back that there's places on the Gulf that you can just drive your van up on the beach and hang out there for free for a few weeks. I thought I'd look into this, and lo and behold, I found several places like that. In fact, I did find 2 wonderful places where I spent a total of about 2, maybe 2.5 weeks at various places where you can simply pull your vehicle right up on the hard-packed beach and just hang out. They're in the Gulf. Sometimes that's hot, sometimes that's cold, sometimes that's hurricane season, so you have to watch when you do it. In my case, I did it right when the polar front was coming. I couldn't get any further south, and I knew as soon as I got here, I didn't have to go anywhere. So I didn't mind that right about the time I pulled onto the beach, freezing rain happened to hit. But that's okay. I had made my destination, and I wasn't going anywhere else. The beach was not overly crowded. It wasn't like an amazing place to go swim, although you could have if you wanted to. For me, though, it was just a time. It was this period I had this couple week long just really hard push, and it was the time to just sit back, relax, and just enjoy. One of these beach clips is going to be from Texas at Freeport, and the other one is going to be from, I forget where, somewhere in Louisiana. It'll probably come to me as I'm editing the video, but, you know. I enjoyed my time on the beach, and then I started heading a little bit further east to continue my loop around. At this point, I'm only in February. It's hard to imagine, but in the last year in this van, I have traveled 28 different states. I have seen mountaintops, I've seen deserts, I've seen oceans, I've seen woods, I've seen lakes, all sorts of amazing things. So I can't even begin to tell you of all the fun and amazing places that this van took me. And whether modern technology, many people working remote, I just work remote. This is something not everybody can do, but certainly a lot of people can do it. So if you are on the fence and you work remote, or you don't really have a need to work, you might consider van life. It has its ups, it has its downs, just like everything else. But the reality is, I've seen so many more things that I can show you. I could show you the pictures of the lakes. I could show you the pictures of the mountains. But you know, we've seen enough. We've seen enough different clips from enough different places today. With that, though, I want to thank you guys for coming along on the journey. And if you have not already subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so and turn on that notification bell, and we will see you a little bit further down the road.